The impossible signal. First Officer Kazarn of the Galactic Council's Deep Space Monitoring Station Beta 7 had seen many strange things during his 3 decades of service, but nothing like this. His primary sensory nodes tingled as he studied the readings before him, mathematical impossibilities dancing across his screens. "Station Director," he called out, his voice carefully modulated to hide his growing anxiety. "We have an anomaly in Sector 47. Station Director Mira Ven glided across the monitoring chamber, her crystalline form catching the soft blue light of the quantum displays. In her 1,000 years of overseeing deep space traffic, she had never heard Kazarn use the word anomaly. "Report," she commanded, her crystalline structure shifting to analysis configuration. "Human vessel, approximately 300 meters in length, designated HS Quantum Dreamer." "But Director." Kazarn's voice trailed off as he manipulated the controls, bringing up a 3-dimensional display of the ship's energy signature. Its drive system defies all known laws of physics. A holographic display showed something that shouldn't exist. A ship moving through space without any detectable propulsion wake. No quantum displacement, no subspace distortion. It simply was, and then wasn't, appearing at different points in space, as if reality itself was merely a suggestion. "Impossible," Ven stated, her crystalline form clouding with confusion. "Check your calibration." "Already done. 3 times. Kazarn brought up the historical data. "Look at the pattern. It's not pushing through space-time like our drives. It's as if it's finding gaps that were always there, spaces between the spaces." The ship's trajectory appeared on the main screen, a graceful dance through the void that made every other vessel's movement look crude and brutish by comparison. Where conventional ships left trails of displaced energy and quantum disturbance, this human vessel moved like a ghost, barely disturbing the fabric of space-time at all. "Open a channel," Ven ordered, her tone suggesting she expected to uncover some sort of measurement error or malfunction. The communication crystal hummed, and moments later, a human face appeared on the screen. The woman wore a standard Earth Space Service uniform, but her eyes held that peculiar gleam that many Council species had learned to associate with human scientific breakthroughs, and the chaos that typically followed them. "This is Captain Elena Santos of the HSS Quantum Dreamer," she said, smiling as if this were a routine traffic stop. "Beautiful sector you're monitoring here." "Captain Santos," Ven's voice carried the particular harmonic of authority used throughout the galaxy. "Your vessel is operating in violation of several fundamental laws of physics. Explain yourself." The human smile widened. "Oh, those laws. We found they're more like guidelines, really. Turns out space-time has some interesting properties when you look at it from a quantum superposition perspective. We're not actually breaking any laws. We're just taking advantage of possibilities that were always there." Kazarn's sensory nodes twitched as he processed the casual way the human dismissed 10,000 years of established physics. "Your energy signature, it's barely registering. How are you achieving faster-than-light travel with so little power?" "That's the beauty of it," Santos replied, bringing up a holographic display of her own. "Conventional drives try to force their way through space-time. We found a better way. Think of it like walking through a crowd. You can push people aside, which takes a lot of energy and leaves obvious disturbance, or you can notice the natural gaps between people and simply step through them." The display showed complex mathematical equations that made Kazarn's tertiary brain hurt just looking at them. The principles seemed to violate everything he knew about physics, yet the proof was right there before him, moving through space with impossible grace. "The Council will want to examine this technology," Ven stated, her tone making it clear this wasn't a request. "Of course," Santos agreed readily, surprising both aliens. "That's actually why we're here. Humanity would like to share this discovery with the galaxy. Though I should warn you," her eyes twinkled with that dangerous human emotion called amusement, "understanding it might require unlearning some things you think you know about how the universe works." As the communication ended, Kazarn turned to his superior. Director, if they can do this, if they can simply step through the spaces between spaces, then everything we know about space travel, about energy requirements, about the fundamental laws of physics, Ven's crystalline form shifted through patterns of deep concern. The humans haven't broken the laws of physics, Kazarn. They've just shown us that we never fully understood them in the first place. The quantum dreamer continued its impossible journey through space, leaving behind not a wake of disturbed space-time, but rather a gentle ripple, like a stone skipping across the surface of reality itself. And in its passage, it carried something far more volatile than any new technology. Ideas that would force the galaxy to question everything it thought it knew about the nature of the universe itself. The origin of innovation. 3 years earlier, Quantum Physics Laboratory, MIT. Dr. Maya Patel stood before the holographic display of her quantum observation chamber, her dark eyes reflecting the dancing patterns of light that represented the behavior of particles at the quantum level. For 6 years, she had been studying what others in her field dismissed as quantum noise, the seemingly random fluctuations in the quantum field that most physicists filtered out of their equations. But Maya had never believed in coincidences, and these patterns were far too intricate to be random. Run the simulation again, she instructed the lab's eye. This time, overlay the data from the black hole observations. The hologram shifted, showing 2 sets of data side by side. On the left, the quantum fluctuations from her lab experiments. On the right, the patterns observed at the edge of a black hole's event horizon. As the data streams played out, Maya's hands moved through the air, conducting an invisible orchestra of quantum mathematics. Stop, she commanded suddenly. Reverse 10 seconds. Play at quarter speed. The patterns rewound, and then began moving forward slowly. Maya's breath caught in her throat. There it was, the proof she'd been looking for. Dr. Patel. The voice came from the doorway, where Dr. James Chen, her colleague from the Applied Physics Department, stood with a curious expression. It's 3 a.m. You're still here. James, Maya said, not taking her eyes off the display. Look at this. What do you see? James stepped closer, his expertise in practical applications complementing Maya's theoretical work. He studied the patterns for a long moment. Then his eyes widened. That's impossible. The patterns are identical. Not impossible, Maya corrected. We just haven't been looking at it the right way. The quantum fluctuations in normal space and the patterns at the event horizon, they're not random noise. They're pathways. She manipulated the hologram, expanding the view. We've been thinking about space travel all wrong. Everyone's been trying to force their way through space-time, like pushing through a wall. But look here. She highlighted a section where the quantum patterns seem to flow around each other in an intricate dance. Space-time isn't solid. It's more like a fabric with threads. If you look closely enough, there are always gaps between the threads. James frowned. But those gaps would be at the quantum level. You couldn't fit anything larger than a particle through them. Maya's eyes lit up with excitement. That's what I thought too. But look what happens when I apply the black hole data. She overlaid the patterns, and suddenly the quantum gaps began to align, creating larger channels through the quantum foam of spacetime. The gravity well of a black hole shows us what spacetime looks like when it's stretched. These patterns aren't just random. They're showing us where the fabric naturally wants to fold. You're saying we could. James trailed off, his mind racing with the implications. Find the natural seams in spacetime. Maya finished. Instead of brute forcing our way through it, we could slip through the gaps that are already there. The energy requirements would be minimal because we'd be working with the universe's natural geometry instead of against it. She brought up another display, this one showing the current state of human spaceflight technology. Every FTL drive we've built works by forcing spacetime to bend. But what if we could build a drive that detects these quantum pathways and simply steps through them? James was already moving to his own workstation, pulling up engineering simulations. We'd need a way to scan for these patterns in real time, he said, his fingers flying over the controls. And a method to maintain quantum coherence at a macro scale. I've been working on that too, Maya said, sending him another set of equations. Look at what happens when you apply a controlled quantum field to a larger object. If you can match the frequency of these natural patterns, you could theoretically sync an entire ship to quantum-level phenomena. James finished, his voice filled with awe. Maya, this isn't just a new drive system. This changes everything we thought we knew about physics. Maya nodded, her excitement tempered by the weight of their discovery. The universe has been showing us these pathways all along, she said softly. In quantum fluctuations, in black holes, even in the way space-time bends around massive objects. We just had to learn to see them. Over the next 18 months, Maya and James led a team that transformed theory into reality. They developed quantum sensors capable of detecting the natural seams in space-time, and engines that could tune themselves to these patterns. The result was the Quantum Dreamer, a ship that didn't fight against the fabric of space-time, but rather slipped through its natural gaps like water flowing through a sieve. As Maya stood in the observation room, watching the final systems being installed in the Quantum Dreamer, she couldn't help but smile. Humanity had spent centuries trying to conquer space through force, never realizing that the key wasn't to break through the barriers, but to find the doors that had been there all along. Ready for final calibration, James called from his station. Maya took a deep breath, knowing that what they were about to attempt would either revolutionize space travel or prove that they'd spent the last year and a half chasing an impossible dream. But then again, she thought, impossible dreams were humanity's specialty. First contact crisis. Captain Elena Santos stood on the bridge of the Quantum Dreamer, watching as the holographic display showed a dozen Kraxan warships emerging from hyperspace. The predatory vessels, their hulls bristling with weapon arrays, moved to surround her ship in a standard attack formation. "They're not supposed to be here," Lieutenant Sarah Chen said from the sensor station, her fingers dancing over the controls. "This sector is neutral space under the Galactic Accords." "Pirates don't care much for accords," Santos replied, keeping her voice calm despite the gravity of their situation. The Kraxan were notorious throughout the galaxy. Technically a recognized species, but one that had turned to organized piracy after their homeworld was rendered uninhabitable by a stellar event. The main screen flickered to life, showing a Kraxan commander. His scaled face and multiple rows of eyes were arranged in what passed for amusement among his species. "Unknown vessel, you have entered Kraxan territory. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in your immediate destruction." Santos shared a quick look with Dr. Maya Patel, who had insisted on being part of this first deep space trial of her quantum drive. The scientist gave a subtle nod. The drive was functioning perfectly. "This is Captain Elena Santos of the Earth Space Service vessel Quantum Dreamer," she responded, matching the Kraxan's confident tone. "You're in violation of the Galactic Accords. I suggest you withdraw." The Kraxan commander's laugh sounded like grinding metal. "One small human vessel against 12 warships. Your species' reputation for courage borders on insanity. But perhaps," his eyes narrowed, "you possess something that gives you such confidence. Our sensors show unusual readings from your ship." "Last warning," Santos said firmly. "Withdraw, or we will be forced to defend ourselves." The Kraxan's response was to fire a warning shot that passed just meters from the Quantum Dreamer's bow, a shot that, by all normal laws of physics, should have been impossible to dodge at this range. But the Quantum Dreamer was no normal ship. "Dr. Patel," Santos called out, "time to show them what humanity's been working on." "Lieutenant Chen, execute pattern Delta." Maya's hands flew over her console, adjusting the quantum field harmonics. The ship's new drive hummed to life, not with the brutal roar of conventional engines, but with a subtle vibration that seemed to resonate with reality itself. The Kraxan ships opened fire, filling space with a deadly web of energy beams and projectiles. But where their target had been, space simply rippled. The quantum dreamer didn't so much move as shift, appearing momentarily between the shots before vanishing again, leaving the Kraxan weapons to pass harmlessly through empty space. Impossible. The Kraxan commander snarled, his composure cracking. No ship can move like that. The universe is full of impossibilities, Santos replied calmly as her ship danced through space in ways that defied conventional physics, until someone proves them possible. The quantum dreamer's movement was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It didn't dodge the Kraxan attacks. It simply ceased to be where they struck, appearing elsewhere as if the ship had always been there, leaving only subtle ripples in the quantum fabric of space. They're trying to adapt their targeting algorithms, Chen reported, but they can't predict our movements. The quantum pathways are too dynamic. Because they're trying to calculate our course using classical physics, Maya added, her eyes bright with the thrill of seeing her theories proven in combat. But we're not moving through normal space. We're sliding between the spaces between spaces. The Kraxan ships began to break formation, their well-practiced attack patterns falling apart in the face of a target that seemed to ignore the basic rules of reality. Some of their shots even began hitting their own ships as the quantum dreamer seemed to appear and disappear between them. Their shields are at maximum, Chen reported, but they're consuming massive amounts of energy trying to maintain their firing solutions. Santos nodded, and we're barely using any power at all. Time to end this. Dr. Patel, can you find us a pathway directly through their formation? Maya studied her quantum readings. There's a beautiful set of intersecting patterns. There, we can slide right through their center. Do it, Santos ordered. Let's show them why fighting humans isn't just about matching our technology. It's about matching our ability to see beyond the obvious. The quantum dreamer seemed to fade like a ghost, reappearing in the heart of the Kraxan formation. The pirates' sensors couldn't even register the transition. One moment the human ship was outside their formation. The next it was among them, forcing them to cease fire or risk hitting each other. To the Kraxan fleet, Santos broadcast, her voice firm but not triumphant. Your weapons can't hit us, and you're burning through your energy reserves trying. I suggest you reconsider your choice of profession. The galaxy is changing, and the old ways of doing things, whether it's physics or piracy, are becoming obsolete. The Kraxan commander's response was a string of untranslatable curses, but his actions spoke louder than his words as he gave the order to retreat. The pirate ships engaged their conventional drives, leaving with far less grace than they had arrived with. As the last Kraxan ship disappeared into hyperspace, Chen let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. That was beautiful, like a dance. That's exactly what it was, Maya said softly, still watching the quantum pattern displays. A dance through the hidden geometries of space-time itself. And this is just the beginning of what we can do with this technology. Santos smiled, knowing that news of this encounter would spread quickly through the galaxy. Humanity hadn't just developed a new way to travel through space. They'd fundamentally changed the rules of engagement in space combat. And they'd done it not by building bigger weapons or stronger shields, but by learning to see the universe in a way no one else had thought to look. The trial of humanity. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with tension as representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered to debate what many were calling the greatest scientific crisis in 10 millennia. At the center of the chamber, the Quantum Dreamers core team stood before the Council's high chamber. Captain Elena Santos, Dr. Maya Patel, and Earth's chief diplomat, Ambassador David Chen. High Counselor Zixtal, their crystalline form refracting light, in patterns of concern, spoke first. Humanity stands accused of recklessly endangering the fabric of space-time itself. Your quantum pathway drive violates fundamental principles that have governed safe space travel for millennia. How do you respond? Ambassador Chen stepped forward, but it was Dr. Patel who spoke first. With respect, High Counselor, we request permission to demonstrate why these accusations are based on an incomplete understanding of universal physics. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Zixtal's crystalline form shifted in what many species recognized as surprise. You claim that 10,000 years of unified galactic physics is incomplete. We claim, Maya said, activating a holographic display in the center of the chamber, that we've all been looking at the universe through the same lens for so long that we've forgotten there might be other ways to see. The display showed the quantum structure of spacetime, but not as the Council had ever seen it represented before. Instead of the rigid grid most physics models use, this showed an intricate flowing pattern of interconnected pathways and possibilities. For millennia, Maya continued, we've treated spacetime as a barrier to be broken through, a wall to be breached. Our ships push against it, tear holes in it, force it to bend. But what we've discovered is that spacetime isn't a barrier at all. It's more like a dance. She manipulated the display, and the patterns began to move, showing how quantum pathways naturally opened and closed, how spacetime itself pulsed with its own rhythm. The quantum pathway drive doesn't violate the laws of physics, Captain Santos added. It works in harmony with them. Instead of forcing our way through spacetime, we've learned to move with its natural flow. Impossible, declared Counselor Vex of the Thraxian Empire, their biomechanical sensors whirring in agitation. The energy requirements alone are minimal, Maya interrupted, bringing up the Quantum Dreamer's power consumption data. Because we're not fighting against the universe. We're working with it. Ambassador Chen stepped forward. Members of the Council, humanity has always looked at problems differently. Where others see walls, we see doors. Where others see limits, we see possibilities. This isn't about breaking the laws of physics. It's about understanding them better. Understanding them better. Counselor Zixtal's tone carried both skepticism and curiosity. You claim that in mere decades, your species has discovered something that the combined scientific might of the galaxy missed for 10,000 years. No, Maya replied, her voice firm but respectful. We discovered something that was always there, waiting for someone to look at it differently. The quantum pathways we use have always existed. We just learned to see them. She expanded the holographic display, showing how the Quantum Dreamer's movement matched the natural patterns in spacetime. Watch closely. When our ship moves, it doesn't disrupt these patterns. It becomes part of them. There's no violation of physics here, just a deeper understanding of how the universe wants to move. The chamber fell silent as the Council watched the display. Even the most skeptical members couldn't deny the elegance of what they were seeing. The Quantum Dreamer's movements through space weren't brutal or forcing. They were graceful, natural, like a leaf carried on a stream. But the implications, Counselor Vex protested, though with less certainty now. If this technology spreads, if everyone begins using these quantum pathways, then we'll all learn to move through space more efficiently, more naturally, Captain Santos finished. The galaxy won't be torn apart, it will be transformed. And isn't that what science is supposed to do? Transform our understanding. High Counselor Zixtal was silent for a long moment, their crystalline form shifting through patterns of deep thought. Finally, they spoke. Dr. Patel, you said something earlier about looking through different lenses. Perhaps that is what the Council needs to do now. They turned to address the full chamber. For 10 millennia, we have prided ourselves on our understanding of the universe, but pride can become a barrier to learning. These humans have not broken our physics, they have expanded it. And now we face a choice. We can cling to what we thought we knew, or we can open ourselves to new possibilities. The chamber erupted in discussion, but Maya could see in the shifting patterns of light and color, in the excited movements of various species, that minds were beginning to open. Humanity hadn't just developed a new technology. They had shown the galaxy a new way to see the universe itself. As the Council moved to deliberate, Ambassador Chen turned to Maya and smiled. You know what they'll ask next, don't you? Maya nodded. They'll want us to teach them, to show them how to see these patterns, how to work with the universe instead of against it. And we will, Santos added, because that's what humans do. We don't just discover new frontiers, we help others explore them too. Legacy of the Stars. 5 years later, Galactic Science Academy, new quantum physics wing. Dr. Maya Patel stood at the observation window of the Academy's newest facility, watching ships of various species practicing the intricate movements of quantum pathway navigation. The scene before her would have been impossible just a few years ago. Vessels from across the galaxy, sliding gracefully through space-time without burning enough energy to power a household appliance. Still hard to believe sometimes, isn't it? Captain Santos, now Admiral Santos, said as she joined Maya at the window. I remember when they were calling us reckless endangerers of the universe. Maya smiled, remembering the tense days of the council hearing. Now look at them. The Thoraxians have actually modified their biomechanical sensors to detect quantum pathways naturally, and a crystalline collective. Their entire understanding of physics has evolved to incorporate quantum harmonics. A group of young aliens, students at the Academy, passed by, engrossed in discussion about the latest refinements to quantum pathway theory. Maya caught fragments of their conversation, terms that she and her team had coined now being used casually throughout the galaxy. The latest statistics came in, Elena said, bringing up a holographic display. Energy consumption for interstellar travel is down 97% across all council worlds. Ships are lasting longer, traveling faster, and reaching places we never thought possible. And that's just the beginning, Maya replied, turning to face her friend. The principles we discovered, they're not just about space travel. The Arctians are using quantum pathway theory to revolutionize their energy production. The Zenth have developed new forms of communication based on quantum harmonics. Every species is finding their own way to apply the knowledge. Through the window, they watched as a massive crystalline vessel demonstrated the latest evolution of the technology. Instead of simply finding existing quantum pathways, it was harmonizing with nearby ships to create new ones, weaving patterns in spacetime that allowed entire fleets to move as one. You know what the most remarkable thing is? Elena mused. Not the technology itself, but how it's changed the way everyone thinks. The galaxy spent millennia trying to conquer space, to bend it to our will. Now they're learning to dance with it, Maya finished. To work with the universe instead of against it. And every species brings their own perspective, their own innovations. A alert chimed softly, reminding Maya of the upcoming symposium. Representatives from across the galaxy would be presenting their own discoveries and innovations, building on the foundation that humanity had provided. The quantum dreamer, now retired to a place of honor in the Academy's museum, had been just the beginning. Dr. Patel, a young Thoraxian student, approached, their biomechanical components humming with excitement. The quantum harmony patterns you predicted, we found them in stellar nurseries. The way stars form, it follows the same principles as quantum pathway navigation. Maya's eyes lit up with familiar scientific curiosity. Show me, she said, following the student to their research station. The display showed the intricate dance of cosmic gas and energy, forming patterns that were eerily similar to the quantum pathway ships now used to navigate space. The universe has been trying to teach us this dance all along, Maya realized. In the way stars form, in the orbits of galaxies, in the very fabric of space-time itself. We just had to learn to see it. Admiral Santos watched as Maya and the student became engrossed in their discussion, their different species and backgrounds forgotten in the shared excitement of discovery. This, she realized, was humanity's true gift to the galaxy, not just the technology itself, but the willingness to question, to imagine, to see things differently. In the space outside, ships of all shapes and sizes continued their graceful dance through the quantum pathways, each movement a testament to how far they'd come. The galaxy had entered a new age, one where the barriers between species began to fade as they all learned to see the universe through new eyes. A small vessel, one of the Academy's training ships, executed a particularly elegant maneuver, sliding through space-time like a leaf on the wind. Its wake showed not the brutal distortion of old-style drives, but a subtle ripple, a harmony with the very fabric of reality. Maya turned from her discussion with the student to watch, her heart swelling with pride not just in human achievement, but in how the galaxy had embraced and evolved their discovery. "You know," she said to Elena, "when we first developed the quantum pathway drive, I thought we were revolutionary. But we weren't. We were just the first to join a dance that's been going on since the beginning of time. And now the whole galaxy is learning the steps." Elena replied, watching as another group of students, human and alien alike, hurried past, their minds full of possibilities that no one would have dreamed of just a few years ago. The universe, they had discovered, was not a barrier to be broken or a frontier to be conquered. It was a partner in an eternal dance, and humanity had simply been the first to hear the music that had been playing all along.